According to the General Hospital recap for Wednesday, September 3rd, Drew Kane was hurried to surgery following Tracy Quartermain's gory discovery. Willow Tate also fainted in Harrison Chase's arms, so let's discuss what happened. Drew was left bleeding on the floor at his home by the shooter. Kai Taylor emerged from the bedroom, armed with a bat, and implored Trina Robinson to stay put, but she followed him to the living room nevertheless. Trina believed Drew was gravely injured, so she checked him and found he still had a pulse. Although Trina wanted to call for help, Kai claimed they couldn't stay there and persuaded her to leave with him when a car pulled up outside. Kai left the door open, so Tracy was the one who discovered Drew and attempted to stop the bleeding with a blanket. Tracy contacted 911, and Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri questioned her about what had happened. Tracy came going to confront Drew about all of the restraining order issues. There was also confirmation that Scout Quartermain was attending a camp sleepover, which was a relief. Dante and Anna noted that there was no indication of forced entry in the house, so they assumed that either the door was unlocked or Drew let his gunman inside. Kai and Trina had an unpleasant confrontation in her apartment. Trina struggled because they had just left without assisting Drew, but Kai believed bolting was the best option. Kai had a key and could have invented an excuse to justify his presence, but Trina had no reason to be there. In addition to shielding Trina from criminal charges, Kai came through for her by revealing that he had obtained the evidence against Portia Robinson. After looking at the file Kai stole, Trina realized she couldn't even tell Portia and Curtis Ashford they were safe because no one would know what they did tonight. Willow arrived at GH soaking wet after bailing out in the midst of her shift and then returning. Elizabeth Baldwin questioned Willow and then downplayed her unethical behavior to Lucas Jones. Lucas became concerned about Liz's position as chief nurse and what she was willing to let Willow get away with. Drew was taken in by paramedics, and Lucas, Elizabeth, and the rest of the medical team began treating him. The gunshots were close to Drew's spine, so things were complicated. Drew required several transfusions and was eventually brought to surgery. Chase eventually approached Willow and updated her on Drew's shooting, causing her to faint in his arms. When Willow regained consciousness, she was anxious to learn more about Drew's situation. Michael Corinthos returned home from the Quartermain mansion, soaked, to find Brooklyn Quartermain comforting Wiley Corinthos with hot chocolate following a nightmare. Wiley was furious because Michael had not answered his phone, but Michael explained that he had forgotten it in the car. Michael reassured Wiley before speaking with Brooklyn alone. That sparked a debate about Willow returning to Drew and how they would do whatever it needed to keep her away from the kids. At the Five Poppies Resort, Britt Westbourne returned to the room where Jocelyn Jackson Vaughn were being detained. Jocelyn admitted she was a WSB agent alongside Vaughn, which Britt found difficult to accept. Britt checked Vaughn's injuries and said he would live. Jocelyn begged for escape assistance, but Britt said there was only so much she could do and they'd have to help themselves. Britt was able to sneak Jocelyn a pair of manicure scissors, which Vaughn and Jocelyn used to free themselves. That resulted in Jocelyn and Vaughn ambushing the man who came to check on them later. Pascal was suspicious when he saw Britt go out of the captive room, but she pretended to be intrigued and advised him not to do anything without the boss there. Britt returned to her suite, where she struggled to make a call using the burner phone Jason Morgan had given her. Jason was at the airport when his phone finally rang, so he answered it and had difficulty comprehending Britt's garbled message. Britt urged Jason return right away, but Pascal overheard her phone call and became threatening. Pascal didn't care what the boss said, he believed that Britt had gone too far. Colette Moreau complained to Jack Brennan about his operatives failing to check in and acted as if the entire operation was a fiasco. Brennan assumed Colette wanted to watch him fail, but she pushed him to brief her and let her go clean up the mess. Carly Spencer interrupted, speaking privately with Brennan about her confrontation with Drew and reflecting on how mistaken she was about her old flame. Carly was definitely struggling with trust issues and feared that she was perhaps mistaken about Brennan. Brennan couldn't guarantee not to hurt Carly, but he acknowledged how awful the concept was and made her feel better. When Brennan learned of Drew's shooting, he claimed it was a good thing Carly was with him that evening and that he clearly meant to be her alibi if necessary. Portia Robinson got into bed with Isaiah Gannon before being taken to the hospital. Portia learned about Drew's tragedy and intended to help with his operation. Drew Kane was transported to surgery in severe condition on Wednesday, September 3rd, according to the General Hospital report. Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri, along with Harrison Chase, embarked on a high-stakes investigation to discover his attacker, and more. After Tracy Quartermaine discovered her nephew, Anna and Dante began their inquiry, while Portia Robinson took advantage of an almost perfect situation. At the same time, Carly Spencer sought an open talk regarding her relationship with Jack Brennan. Okay, wait, the link to our second channel is given in the description. Please subscribe. Dante confirms Scout's attendance at Elila's kid sleepover, and Anna requests that Tracy tell her everything that transpired. Tracy did, and she claimed she saw no one and heard nothing, but the entire area was dark when she arrived. Anna inquires as to the reason for her visit. Tracy informs Anna that she has just discovered that not only did Drew coordinate the Stella investigation, but he also filed restraining orders against Scout's entire family to keep them away from her. She came here to try to reason with Drew on Monica's behalf. She explains that as repulsive as Drew is, she doesn't know what to tell Monica if he dies. Dante informs Anna that they discovered a puddle of water at the back door, as if someone had departed that way. There is also an open safe, which is not empty, and a sapphire ring on the mantel. Clearly, this was not a robbery. The only thing out of place is the bat in the center of the living room. Oh, Kai, you did not leave that with your prints on it, you dolt. At her house, Kai informs Trina that there are no developments on Drew in the news. Trina believes they should have stayed, but Kai claims they couldn't justify her presence, and Drew may have been blackmailing her mother. That causes Trina to panic since the detectives might locate the evidence Drew had on her mother, which Kai produces after discovering it first. Willow arrives at the hospital and inquires about Drew's status. Chase claims he was just brought in, and Lucas and Liz are currently working on him. Willow wonders if Drew will make it. In the ER, Liz and Lucas work to stabilize Drew so that the bullets may be removed without injuring his spinal cord. Liz confirms that the oar is ready. Portia comes, and Liz informs her that Drew has been shot twice in the back and is in critical condition. He's being prepared for surgery. In the final moments in his office, Jack informs Carly that Drew has been shot and that it is too early to determine whether he will survive. There were no witnesses, and Drew was at home alone. It's a good thing she's with him tonight. Brooke Lynn is taken aback when Willow returns to Drew during the Q&As. Michael claims he'll do anything to keep his children away from Willow. At Drew's, Anna asks Tracy if it was raining when she came, and Tracy responds no. Dante inquires whether she touched anything out of place, such as the softball bat. At Trina's, Kai claims he discovered the safe was open, saw the papers, and took them. He feels horrible for abandoning Drew, but she now has the evidence. Trina knows she can't tell her parents they're safe because nobody will know they were there. Willow inquires about Drew while Liz provides an update to Portia at the hospital. Lucas is about to go to the operating room and swears to do everything he can for him. Lucas then speaks with Portia and Liz, admitting that the bullets are dangerously close to Drew's spine and pose a chance of paralysis. Lucas is waiting for another doctor to come and help him, but Portia says she will scrub in with him. Tracy tells Dante at Drew's that she stepped over the bat as she entered, so Dante will picture it. Tracy is free to depart, and Anna asks Dante how many people want Drew dead. Dante says it's a long list, so Anna wonders who's at the top. A guard visits the 5 poppies to check on Vaughn and Joss, who have cut themselves free, and attacks him. Britt ultimately connects with Jason in the Paris airport, but the call is cut short due to bad service. She screams at him to come back. Back in her room, Pascal finds Britt and doesn't care what he thinks because she's gone too far. The General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, September 4th, state that Drew Kane's operating room outcome is imminent, while Willow Tate questions Nina Reeves and Trina Robinson's suspicions Portia Robinson. For begin, Harrison Chase will speak with Anna Devane regarding Drew's case. Chase may claim that Willow's shocked reaction to Drew's suffering proves her innocence, but Anna may be less certain. Chase might also believe Tracy Quartermain's actions show she did not pull the trigger. Tracy contacted 911 and tried to save Drew, thus it wouldn't make sense for her to be the one who attempted to kill him. Tracy will discuss with Michael Corinthos the significance of keeping Monica Quartermain in the dark about all of the Drew drama. However, Congressman Kane's shooting is expected to make headlines any minute now, so Monica may find out what occurred shortly. While Anna and Chase investigate some potential suspects, Dante Falconeri will do the same at Alexis Davis's home. Alexis will try to get rid of Dante, who will worry that she has gone too far in her effort to bring Drew down. Trina will have a similar mentality toward her mother because Portia Robinson has been known to take harsh measures. Trina will speak out to Kai Taylor about the likelihood that Portia attempted to kill Drew forever. Portia volunteered to scrub in on Drew's surgery, but sabotaged it would be difficult with other surgeons involved. With that in mind, Portia may just have to accept it if Drew survives his stay in the OR, which all indicators point to him doing. Following the breakdown of his marriage, Curtis Ashford will turn to Jordan Ashford for advice. Jordan and Curtis might be together when they receive updates on Drew's gunshot crisis. At the Port Charles Grill, Lulu Spencer will meet with someone who is willing to take a big risk. Will it be Nina Reeves, since GH spoilers suggest she will do something reckless on Thursday's episode? Even if someone else meets Lulu instead, Nina will find herself in a difficult situation at the hospital. Nina appears to be questioning Willow about Drew's shooting, thus Willow will be curious about how her mother learned about it. It's possible Nina fired 2 rounds into Drew or saw someone else doing it. Willow remains a suspect since we all know she can lie and play dumb, as she has in the baby stalker case. Regardless, Nina may have a nice answer for Willow if the story has already gone public by then. According to General Hospital spoilers, Drew's shooter will be on the free for some time, so stay tuned for additional clues as to who is guilty. Britt was paralyzed in the waiting area, clutching her phone so hard that her fingers turned white. Her brown hair was tangled, with strands sticking to her tear-stained cheeks. She hadn't stopped shivering since the phone came, an accident, they said, a fall from the scaffolding at the construction site where Drew had been working extra hours. The details were blurry and fragmented, a loose bolt, a violent fall, Drew's body crumpling 20 feet below. She hadn't seen anything, but her mind formed a vivid, excruciating picture of his muscular figure hitting the earth, the crack of bone, and the quiet that followed. Now she was staring at the swinging doors that had swallowed him, her heart thumping so hard that it seemed like it was about to burst her ribs. She dialed Jason's number without thinking, her fingers moving instinctively. The phone rang once, twice, and 3 times, each unanswered tone triggering a new wave of terror. pick up, please," she said softly, moving in tight circles. Her boots clicked on the floor, providing contrast to the distant beeping of monitors. Jason was Drew's brother, the only one who might comprehend the gravity of the situation, and the only one who might be able to keep her together when she felt like she was unraveling. They hadn't spoken in months, not since the fight, some foolish dispute about money, family, or both, the kind of schism that grows because no one wants to be the first to bow. But none of that mattered now. Drew was inside, struggling for his life, future, and ability to walk. She needed Jason. The waiting room was a purgatory of cheap chairs and old periodicals, the air thick with strangers' apprehension. An elderly woman sat knitting in the corner, her needles clicking regularly, while a young man walked past the vending machine, grumbling to himself. Britt hardly noticed them. Her world had shrunk to the phone in her palm and the doors through which Drew's fate was being decided. She sobbed when Jason's gruff voice asked her to leave a message on his voicemail. "Jason, this is Britt. It's Drew. He's badly hurt. He is currently being taken into surgery. Possible paralysis. Please, I need you here. St. Mary's Hospital. Please come." Her voice faltered on the last word, and she sank into a chair, face buried in her hands, hanging up the phone. In the operating room, the surgical team worked with practiced precision, their actions a choreography of life and death. Drew lay under the bright glare of overhead lights, his body wrapped in blue antiseptic sheets and an oxygen mask placed around his face. The lead surgeon, Dr. Elena Martinez, furrowed her brow as she studied the scans on the monitor. The fracture was clean but significant, impacting on the spinal cord. Every minute counted. "We're looking at decompression and stabilization," she told her colleagues, her voice steady but full of urgency. "If we don't relieve the pressure, we're risking permanent damage." The anesthesiologist changed the drip, and the scrub nurse handed over instruments quietly. Drew's life was hanging in the balance, a delicate thread pulled taut between skill and chance. Britt's thoughts raced as she sat in the waiting area, repeating the morning. It had been commonplace, and painfully so. Drew had kissed her farewell before dawn, his work boots scuffed against the hardwood floor of their apartment. She'd been half asleep, mumbled something about dinner plans, not realizing it could be the last words they'd say in a world where he could still stand. The guilt gnawed at her. Why hadn't she said more, held him longer? She remembered his chuckle, how it filled the room, and how his calloused hands felt on her flesh. She couldn't bear the thought of him never walking again or holding her in the same way. She called Jason again, her urgency growing. This time, he answered the second ring. "Britt?" Jason's voice was harsh and hesitating, as if he was preparing for unpleasant news. He was in his truck, with the motor rumbling faintly in the background. She could image him with his big shoulders bent and his black eyes narrowing as he processed her words. "It's Drew," she announced, her voice wavering. "He fell. At work. They are now operational. They're saying he might not walk again," Jason said, his words harsh and jagged. She heard his rapid intake of air. "Jesus," he mumbled. "Where are you?" "St. Mary's." "Please, Jason, I can't do this alone. I'm on my way." The line went silent, and Britt sighed, a small relief from the strain growing in her chest. Jason was approaching. He'd always been the stable one, the rock when Drew's impulsiveness put them in trouble. If anyone could guide her through this, it was him. The surgery dragged on, each minute seeming to last forever. Dr. Martinez worked cautiously to navigate Drew's delicate spine. The team had stabilized the fracture, but the swelling around the cord posed a challenge. "We've got compression here," she added, referring to a dark spot on the image. "If we can't reduce it, the damage could be irreversible." Her hands operated with surgical certainty, but her mind was preoccupied with the implications. She had seen cases like this before. Some patients walked out, while others did not. Drew was young and muscular, but the spine was cruel. One false move, one error, and he'd be permanently confined to a wheelchair. Back in the waiting area, Britt's phone rang with a text from Jason, 10 minutes out. She held onto those words like a lifeline, her gaze fixated on the doors. The elderly woman with the knitting had left, leaving a pair chatting uncomfortably in the corner. The vending machine guy had already left, but the air still felt heavy and oppressive. Britt's thoughts raced, images of Drew in a wheelchair, their apartment with its tight doorways and steep stairs, and a future remade in a single, cruel moment. She tried to push them away, to concentrate on the present, but the anxiety persisted. 9 minutes later, Jason rushed through the hospital doors, leaving slight dirt stains on the floor with his work boots. His plaid shirt was rumpled, and his face was filled with dread. He spotted Britt right away and took large strides across the room, grabbing her into a forceful hug. "What happened?" he inquired, his voice low and desperate. She told him everything, the call, the accident, the surgery, and the dreadful word paralysis. She spoke in stops and spurts, interspersed by trembling breaths. Jason listened, his mouth tense, his gaze far away but concentrated. When she was finished, he ran his hand through his hair, a motion so similar to Drew's that her chest ached. "He's tough," Jason finally remarked, his tone stern. "He's gone through worse. He'll get through it." Britt nodded, hoping to believe him, but uncertainty lingered. They sat together in quiet, which was weighty but not uncomfortable. Jason's presence provided some consolation, reminding her that she was not alone in this. They waited, looking at the clock, the doors, and the nurses who came and departed with no news. Each hour felt like a thief snatching hope away piece by piece. In the operating room, Dr. Martinez made the last modifications, fastening the titanium rods that would brace Drew's spine. The swelling was still a concern, but they had done everything they could. "Close him up," she whispered, taking a step back, her hands steady but her thoughts racing. The following few hours would be important for recovery, response, and the body's unpredictable struggle. She removed her gloves and looked into her team's eyes, a nonverbal acknowledgement of their efforts and the uncertainty that remained. Britt and Jason sprung to their feet as soon as Dr. Martinez entered the waiting room. Her expression was unreadable, a professional mask that revealed nothing. "He's out of surgery," she added, her voice calm and measured. "We have stabilized the fracture, but there is substantial swelling around the spinal cord. We won't know the full degree of the injury until he wakes up and we can examine his motor function." Britt's legs weakened, and Jason grabbed her arm to stabilize her. "Can we see him?" she inquired, her voice barely above a whisper. "Soon," Dr. Martinez replied. "He is currently recovering. We'll keep a careful eye on him." She gave a brief, comforting gesture before turning back to the doors, leaving Britt and Jason in the silent aftermath. They sat closer together, their shoulders brushing. Jason reached for her hand and squeezed it briefly. "He's a fighter," he repeated again, and for a little moment, Britt believed him. The waiting went on, but they faced it together, united by fear, hope, and the delicate bond of family. The hospital slipped into its nocturnal pattern, with the lights dropping somewhat and the passageways quieter. Britt leaned on Jason's shoulder, exhausted. Drew's smile, his tenacity, and his ability to persevere in the face of adversity sprang to mind. She clung to the image, hoping it would be enough. Drew was fighting somewhere beyond those doors, and she would fight alongside him the entire time. Drew's procedure had been a roller coaster of emotions from the outset. As the physicians worked feverishly in the operating room, those waiting outside held their collective breath, unsure if the man they knew, the man whose decisions had frequently split Port Charles, would make it out alive. The tension was evident, and the echoes of whispered comments about Drew's role in recent scandals further added to the anxiety among those present. It wasn't simply a question of whether Drew would survive, it was also about what his survival meant for everyone whose lives were intertwined with his, especially now when secrets were threatening to break fragile bonds. Willow was one of those pacing the sterile corridor, her fingers twisting nervously as she waited for news. Her relationship with Drew was tricky. He was Michael's uncle, and he had entered their life as someone she sought to trust. However, she couldn't shake the horrible sensation in her gut that his deeds, deception, and recent power maneuvers had dragged everyone into an even bigger storm than they were prepared for. Still, as the minutes became into hours, she became increasingly concerned about his well-being. Even though she had reservations about his motives, she didn't want to see him suffer, not after everything they'd been through. Drew's condition had worsened unexpectedly within the surgery room. The treatment was expected to be simple, but difficulties occurred midway. The surgeons exchanged nervous glances as the monitors beeped irregularly, and the lead doctor yelled orders to stabilize him. Drew's life was in danger with each passing second, thus the strain increased. Outside, Michael tried to seem calm, but the wrinkle in his brow indicated the agony he was feeling. He couldn't bear the thought of losing another family member, especially after Willow's illness, Nina's treachery, and the ongoing battles over custody, loyalty, and trust. When the OR doors finally opened, everyone froze. The main surgeon stepped out, taking off his mask, his demeanor grave but calm. "He made it," he said, but his voice had a warning tone. "Drew is currently stable, but the next 48 hours will be key. We need to keep a tight eye on him." Michael was relieved, but only for a brief time. The weight of unsolved concerns hung heavy in the air, and Willow could feel it weighing down on everyone like a storm cloud about to break. Tension quickly resurfaced, with Nina serving as the focal point this time. Willow had been quietly boiling for weeks, holding back her feelings, but seeing Nina in the waiting room, appearing to be the victim, pretending that she hadn't caused so much of the upheaval, pushed her over the edge. Willow approached Drew as soon as she was brought into recovery, and the doctors told them that there was nothing else they could do for the time being. "You don't get to stand here acting like you're part of this family," Willow hissed, her voice cutting but shaking with barely contained rage. "Nina, you caused this. Everything that's occurring? Everything? Begins with your falsehoods." Nina blinked, apparently taken aback, but swiftly recovered, her protective instincts taking control. "I didn't cause Drew's accident," she replied, folding her arms tightly. "I tried to protect everyone, including you. Everything I've done was because I thought it was best for this family." Willow laughed bitterly, quickly, and sharply. "Family? You've been gradually destroying this family since the day you entered our lives. You've twisted Michael, damaged relationships, and now Drew is almost killed on the operation table? And you expect me to believe you were assisting?" The tension between them rose, and even those around them? Carly, Michael, and a few others? Hesitated to act. They were aware of the depth of Willow and Nina's resentment, and they may have known that this encounter was unavoidable. Nina's voice trembled as she attempted to excuse herself, but Willow would not let her off the hook this time. She'd bitten her tongue for far too long, attempting to keep the peace for the sake of her own recovery and the children's, but Drew's brush with death had shattered the fragile balance they'd been relying on. "You lied about Sonny," Willow said, her tone rising with each accusation. "You lied about Michael. You lied to me. And you sit there playing like the victim, despite the fact that everything is coming apart as a direct result of your choices. I don't care how many excuses you make, Nina, this is on you." Michael came forward, laying a hand on Willow's shoulder to calm her, but she brushed him off. Her emotions had reached a boiling point, and she was not going to be silenced. The months of betrayal, of putting on a pleasant front when she wanted to scream, had all come flooding back, and now she was finally letting Nina feel the pain. Nina's composure faltered for a moment. She pushed back tears, but there was also rage behind them. Anger that no one ever seemed to give her the benefit of the doubt, that every mistake she made was used against her while others' imperfections were overlooked. "You don't understand what it's like," Nina said quietly, but Willow interrupted her. "No, Nina. I understand completely. You desired control, and we're all paying the price. Drew is resting in there as a result of the series of events you initiated. You can't rewrite history to make yourself the hero," Carly said, eventually breaking her silence. Her voice was calm yet powerful, cutting through the tension like a knife. "Willow's right," she murmured, locking gazes with Nina. "You've been making decisions that endanger everyone else while believing it's for love or family. But acts have repercussions, Nina. And now, so do you." Nina gazed around the room, noting that there was not a single sympathetic face in the audience. Even Michael, who had tried to maintain some civility for Willow's sake, was not coming to her rescue. The seclusion hit her like a punch, but instead of giving in, she squared her shoulders, unwilling to let them see her break. "Do you all want to blame someone?" "Okay," she responded, her voice rising with desperation and anger. blame me. But you should also look at yourselves, because none of you are innocent in this mess. Drew did not come here because of a single person. Every single one of you has taken decisions that have brought us to this point. The room became silent for a long, heavy beat. Nobody hesitated to accept it, but Nina's remarks contained truth. Their complex web of secrets, grudges, and power struggles had produced an environment in which trust and boundaries were frequently shattered. Willow was still not ready to let go. She took a deep breath, attempting to recover control, but her voice remained cold. Perhaps we've all made mistakes, but some of us are working to correct them. You keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, and then you act shocked when people stop forgiving you. Nina's lips squeezed into a thin line, and for the first time, she had no response. Instead, she looked away, blinking quickly as if she could hold back the tears that threatened to fall. The struggle had drained her, and she turned and walked down the corridor, separating herself from the rest of them. Willow remained there for a while, chest heaving as she comprehended what had just happened. Michael moved closer, finally placing an arm across her shoulders to ground her in the tumult. Carly sighed and rubbed her temples, as if the weight of everything had finally landed on her. But, no matter how stressful the argument had been, one thing remained: Drew's survival had altered the outcome. His recuperation meant answers were on the way, and when he awoke, the truths he held about alliances, betrayals, and who was pulling the strings behind the scenes could either bring them all closer together or drive them apart.